Well, it's been a morning of driving and looking and finding a spot and getting out and looking at the lake a lot, but only after fiddling with the camera for a good while. I thought I had this new camera set up in a way that was going to work, and now the longer I use it, the more things I try, like for example my car mount, the suction cups I stick over there so I don't have to hold it like I'm doing now. Now the camera's too heavy for that, which I expected the camera to be heavier, and I planned for that, and then I put other stuff on top of it. So I've been dealing with that as well. And then I tried to balance it on the gimbal so that I could at least do like landscape shots and get some movement in there and be able to have it steady. Um, couldn't balance it on the gimbal. Need to try more at home. This lens is very light, and then the camera body is very heavy, and so it's causing it to be very. And I've got all this stuff on top of it: another mic, a recording device, a handle, you know, a bunch of stuff. So I was fiddling with it a lot today, but I did want to just come out and see, even though it was just going to be a cloudy morning for a couple of hours before we get some heavy rain coming. So I didn't expect to do much, and that's why I didn't bring very much, but I spent more time than I was hoping for fiddling with camera stuff and less time out actually looking at the nature. So I'm gonna do some more driving around for a while and see what else there is around here. And it's a nice spot for that stuff. I haven't seen much wildlife. I've seen some chipmunks, but not too much. Hopefully some of the shots came out of just kind of looking at the lake with the mountains around, doing some landscape video. We shall see. Well, I've been out for a couple of hours now, just driving around to different places on the lake, anywhere I can park and get out that looks interesting. There's a big bird flying across the lake right now. Don't have my binoculars. Realized I left them at home because I was using them by my computer desk to look at. It's a hawk, but I cannot tell what kind. Too far. I was using them to look at hummingbirds out the window, which was the last thing that I worked on last weekend and have been editing this past few days. Whenever I finish work, I work on a little bit more, and I was working on it on my Monday day off. Anyway, yes, hummingbirds. I got that done. It has been not a lot of going out too much because there's been a lot of stuff settling in at the new place. A lot of work, arranging, trying to fit things. Everything fits, but it is tight. It is small. It's about half the space square foot wise, I think, and it feels even less. But besides the bedrooms being like filled with boxes, the living space is livable. As you might have seen, I've got all my computer stuff set up. I'm good there. I've got all my stuff, and Bunny's got her area with her TV and everything. So it works. It's tight, but it works. But it's been a lot of I've had to take days off, using my days off to arrange and rearrange and get some things done and sneak in a little bit of wildlife here and there where I can, or actually it's been more nature so far, but using that because I've had to take time off in order to go to a DMV to get the cars registered now that we have moved out of state, legally supposed to do that. I didn't do that for a long time at other places, but that's been many, many years. When I moved to North Carolina for a year, I went, well, I'm not going to register. Well, I didn't know how long I was going to be there, but I was coming up on it and I realized, I still don't know where I'm going to wind up or anything, and it's going to be a hassle, and it's due now. It's going to be expired and will get me in trouble. So I wound up switching everything to North Carolina like 2 weeks before I left North Carolina and came back to Georgia. But I still had a Georgia license that was valid, and it was a weird thing where you're definitely supposed to, and so I got a North Carolina license, but then I went back to Georgia, so I had both because they didn't take them away, and at that point in time, for some reason, they weren't voiding them out. I just went and got a Colorado driver's license, which took a separate DMV trip because they do things in two different places, which makes sense. That's how when I grew up in Georgia, they had two different buildings. It's all done at the same type of building, it's just that they've split it up because they're short-staffed. So you have to go one place that's in one direction for that, and then make an appointment at another place, which is completely several hours in another direction, because that's the only place that's close to us that had an appointment available that could get it done before school starts for Bonnie, and before we get past the 30 days you're supposed to do it, but then your car gets 90, or maybe I've got that backward. I don't know. I'd take a day off to do that, right? So that's been mostly of what the first month has been. I have made it out 2, 3, technically hummingbirds I'm going to count even if it wasn't going far. I did take cameras and do things, so maybe 4 times in the last month since we've been here. It's been a little bit more than a month since we moved, and I'm still just tired. I don't know if it was just the mental, there was so much stress and so many other things going on and so much just a lot of stuff going on that it's finally starting to settle down a little bit where I don't feel like it's, all right, I've got my work, here's a 10-hour work day, clock out, what do I need to get done? Start doing stuff like that. I can go, here's my routine, settling back in, maybe play a little bit of video games, food and things, watching TV. I just finished the new season of Stranger Things last night. I rewatched all 3 seasons and then watched the 4th one. That's a good show. So point being, I haven't done this in a while either, since basically that first time when we got here, just the personal vlog, Cheep and Chitter. I hope that's what I called it. Better not have to cut that. But I've still seen some cool stuff like those hummingbirds, which is nice. And it is settling down. Things are becoming more of a pattern, more of the routine, and I've been able to do that. I felt a lot of anxiety about going out and trying to, I've been able to do it in bite-sized pieces, and I think I had the realization this week that that's my pattern. That's what I've done. I've now moved twice since I started doing something with a camera. Before I moved 20 times. But this in this instance, trying to go out finding nature, and there's plenty of nature here and things like that, which is good. That's also very crowded, which less wildlife I haven't seen too much, but I know that there will be spots. I just have to find them, and that's kind of why I came out today, to look around and see what this place was like. But yeah, I don't know why there's so much anxiety about getting back to doing it. And the pattern is taking it slow and doing kind of small steps. That's what I did when I moved to Wyoming. The first few things that I did, I didn't go out right away. I didn't push myself, if I remember correctly. It's now been 2 years. But when I did start going out, I don't think I went out because I didn't have a car. I sold my car before I moved. So I felt like if I was taking the only car at home, then I was trapping Bonnie. So that was... I did go out after I got it in September, and I started doing local stuff until the tag expired, and then I didn't go anywhere for months because I felt like it would be illegal, which technically it was, and they didn't let me know until after the fact, where they were like, yeah, we extended that some places because of COVID, so we couldn't get your plate within the normal period of time, and then they extended it, but it expired, I don't remember exactly the time frame, I think it expired in 2 months after I got it. I think it was a 60-day. And I didn't wind up getting the actual license plate for 6 months. And then sometime in January, after it had been expired for months and I didn't drive it anywhere, besides little trips around town, hoping that everything would be fine. I didn't take it anywhere major or anything. Then they sent me oh, here's your extended plate. I was like, this is already expired. Anyway, the point was that I mostly did things around the town that I was living in. And I started with still photography, and I did things like that, even though I kind of dipped into video right before moving, and so I wanted to do more video, and that was before I really dove in and bought, the Ursa Mini camera and started doing that and realizing exactly what it is I wanted to be doing. So I've kind of regressed into that now, is that I don't know places to go. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to look online when I have time and figure it out. Places, it's... hawk, big hawk with a white head, so I'd think a bald eagle, but it didn't really look like a bald eagle, if that makes sense. Anyway, thankfully, one of the things that I did last year, after having been in Wyoming for a year, and I started exploring and I started doing more stuff and going places and doing a lot of video and things like that. I think it was after I did the Fort Robinson trip, and I saw, was it Fort Robinson? No, maybe it wasn't Fort Robinson. Maybe it was when I went to see Mount Rushmore. at some point, I remember realizing it would be a good idea. I was already had a state park pass, but to get a national park pass, which is great and has come in handy because even though it expires at the end of this month, since I bought it August last year, it's still technically good, and it's what I need to visit the places that I'm currently going to. Because otherwise I'd have to be paying per day fees or buying another annual pass, which I will have to do. But that's good to know. Knowing that, that's an easier thing. Even though I looked up in one of the places it's a drive, but it's not too bad, is a national park. And I started looking up going, okay, yeah, national park, that sounds great, big, outdoors, that's exactly what I'm looking for, things like that. And then I looked it up and they're like, okay, so it's on 2-hour time entrances where you do that and you have to pay for a reservation to get in on top of any park pass fees that you have to do. And I had to look it up twice to understand exactly what it was. My pass should count for that, but then I still have to pay the reservation, which isn't much after the second time of looking it up. But the reason that they do that, and there's timed entries, especially for when I would want to go, and they only sell a certain amount of passes and they only release a couple a day, and they're, it's very limited and things like that. It's like the most popular park in the United States, I think. I don't know if that's exactly true, but they were like, we bring in millions of people during the busy season, which is now summer, before it becomes winter and before it snows over. That's not really what I'm looking for. I want to go out in nature, not around people. That's kind of the opposite of my whole deal. So that's kind of off limits for right now. I might visit during the winter. I don't know what's going to happen during the winter. I'm not experienced driving on snow, and we will get snow up in the Colorado mountains, that is for sure. So we'll have to see. I have to find out if we have to get chains for the tires. I bet we do. But I need to research that because I saw that was something, the way that we came through, we drove like through around Denver. Well, the battery's going to die. I have to swap out my battery. 1 second. There we go. Fresh battery. One of the things that I saw when we were driving up through the city was they had things that said certain times of year, and it was the majority of the year. I think it starts in September and runs through April or May, and it said tire chains are required by law on that highway. I don't plan on needing to go into the big city for anything unless in an emergency, in which case I'd rather not still. I'd rather hopefully take care of it without having to drive several hours to get to a big city. That was something that was different that I had to plan for, and now we have done. I spent some money. I was spending more money lately, but thankfully, getting all this camera and stuff like that was planned for, when I realized this is what I wanted to do and this is what I've been saving for, and I'm not going to be able to save hardly anything over the next year while we are here because of just how expensive the cost of living and rent, and inflation's making it even worse. And we get our few choice of grocery stores is just, they're like back in Georgia, you had a couple different options, right? You got your cheaper. I think Walmart technically is the cheapest, and Kroger was right along with it. And then there were more expensive places like Ingles and Publix. Well, basically, all we have here is the higher priced Ingles and Publix, essentially. Not the same ones because we're so far, and they're different corporations, even though some of them are owned by. Anyway, the point being is that it's expensive, and I had money, and so I used my savings to buy this camera stuff, part of it. And I used the other part of it because I refinanced the loan that I bought when I got my original Ursa camera. I refinanced that for a much lower interest rate, thankfully. I'm glad I only paid 2 years, not quite 2 years of the higher interest rate with what that is, but then I was able to refinance it, and there was money left over after paying, the original amount, which, yes, the absolutely smart thing to do would be to take any extra that's coming instead of, because I'm basically doubling down on a loan, thankfully a lower interest rate. Take anything extra and just immediately put it towards the loan to pay it off. That would be a smart thing to do, yes. And instead I bought camera stuff. But the point is, what I had the money for most recently, what I was about to talk about, was I had, from repaying the loan, they overpaid because I went in and said, how much is my, how much do I owe today? Oh no, I can do this with the remote that I got. Now I'm never going to not be able to do that. Uh-oh. Anyway, I did that, and then they charged interest anyway. The payments didn't go through for weeks. Everything that was there, paying the loan off early, got me money back as part of the fee that they originally charged when you take out a loan as a personal loan, which I used part to buy a camera and part to pay out to refinance all my debt that I owed at that point in time. Anyway, I got money coming back to me at that point. And so I used part of that money to be prepared for something that I did not have to do when I was living in Georgia, North Carolina, or Wyoming, the 3 states that I have resided in my life. Here in Colorado, and in the areas especially, one of the things, if you watched the video a couple weeks ago, when we were driving through a national forest, it was something that Bonnie pointed out to me from the time that she had visited before, where there was a burn scar because it was a huge wildfire. And I've also known people who live in Colorado who go, yeah, wildfires happen. That is a thing. More and more because of the environment. Something that we had to be planned for, something that we have to be prepared for. So I bought a bag, and I looked up exactly what you need to put in it as a go bag in case of some kind of emergency, a national disaster or a wildfire, or given whatever the situation is, there are different things. I learned a lot. I did a lot of research on that, which was one of the things I spent over the weekends. That was something that I considered necessary to immediately get going. And I think you might agree, if you think about it, if there is a wildfire somewhere around in this area, you don't have a lot of time, you get your stuff and you go. And so if you don't have stuff packed up, you either stay and die, or you hopefully grab everything. It's just not an option. Why would you not want to be prepared? So, packed a bag, bought a bunch of emergency supplies, looked up exactly what it was, tried to piece it out myself because buying one of those pre-made kits from like eBay or Amazon or whatever are usually filled with crap products. So I learned that stuff. I looked up like different government agencies saying what you should have in there and took their recommendations. So in the event of anything, like, well, something in particular that I hadn't thought about that they put in, they were like, bring a tarp and duct tape. Because if you have to shelter in place, or if you have, something like that, you can build a shelter out of those things. That was something that I hadn't considered before I looked that up. I knew, like, get a first aid kit, get, bandages, get a compass, things like that. I knew some things like that. I was in Boy Scouts for a while, and those were, some of that stuff came back to me. But have a fire starter, the only thing I don't have is emergency rations, because I wanted to hold off on that just for now because of the money situation, and there was other things that, I had to buy. I got some new shirts, so my wardrobe has worn very thin. Anyway, point being, this is just the personal off the top of my head as it is. But it hasn't been all busy. I have been making time for myself and for my goals to finish, even if it hasn't been my focus the last month, has been here and there on this side of things. I still, on a regular basis, achieve other things. For example, video games that I like to play, that I enjoy, and I like to take time with. I also make it, I set goals for myself there and make time for those as well. I've listened for audiobooks to a couple new books over the last month or two. Which is great. I really enjoy reading and hearing stories and things like that, and that's kind of going along. There goes that same. Definitely not a bald eagle. It's interesting, it's making loops as it goes around. Definitely not a bald eagle. Very brown, and the head is not entirely white, and the beak is not yellow. I'm going to have to look that up when I get home. Didn't bring any kind of big lens or camera for that whatsoever. Just knew that I would get a couple hours before the rain started. It is very cloudy. It's getting worse as it goes on, so I do need to get going because I don't really want to be driving home in the rain. But some video game goals that I made, like there was I play an MMO, Elder Scrolls Online. I've probably talked about it before. It's dominated a large part of my life. I really enjoy that. It's one of the best. I like the MMO, and I like being able to play with people, even though I don't have anyone to play with most of the time. But you could do so much of that solo, and that's what I really enjoy. And it's easier to get into, random groups with people, stuff like that. Anyway, they had a new content drop on my birthday, actually back in June. And so I wanted to play all the way through that. It was a great storyline. And then something that has had a lot more ups and downs that I've talked about, that it's more of just setting a goal and doing it, and it's partly because that's not a sit down. This next game, the Pokemon games, is less of sitting down and enjoying the game, and more of I'm doing it as I want to achieve something. I've enjoyed Pokemon. I've never played through some of the games that I own, which is, I always feel a little guilty about that whenever that happens. And then I use it as an excuse to ride the exercise bike regularly. I have now upped it now that I've come here as part of the diet to try to lose the less of the weight that I really would like to lose, and also, being fit and healthy and money concerns, dieting 5 days a week on a more heavier things like that, an exercise regimen. I think I was doing 4. I've been doing 4 for 2 years now. I don't remember exactly when I started because I kind of picked up and dropped off on exercising here or there. And I was going on walks and I was trying to do that. But buying the exercise bike at the beginning of 2021, it's now been a year and a half there. And I know I'm over 2,000 miles there. And since I started that and went, I will play Pokemon while I ride the bike. And I will do that every day that I work. And now I've upped that to 5 days a week, even though I technically only work 4. So Monday through Friday, I work. I get done with work, I ride the bike, I play Pokemon. And I have played through all of the Pokemon games up till this point. I have completed that. And then I started looking into, I pulled in all of the different Pokemon from all of the games, and I brought everything into their subscription service that I have to pay for, unfortunately. And I saw that I'm really not too far off from completing the current Pokedex of everything that's there, which is 905 Pokemon, to my understanding. And I have, as of like yesterday, just under 800. So it's not, I'm surprised at how far it is, honestly. It's always been a fun thing. The games, very much great games if you play them when they release or, spread out every couple years and you go, oh yeah, Pokemon, that's great. If you play them back to back over the course of a year and a half, they are boring. There are parts where you just have to go grind and do the same thing over and over, and it is not fun. And there are parts that are just plain frustrating, and especially some of the newer stuff is very much made to play with multiple people, and that's not what I'm doing, and I tried, and no one's playing it because it's an older game, so you're just sunk. But that's less of a fun and more of a distraction while doing a thing that I don't enjoy, which is exercising. So I'm glad to have been up to that point. I thought, it's consumed a large part of my life, and it's been a huge dream. A goal to achieve is to just get through all of them finally and take one of, what's that symbol? Take one of each Pokemon from the games and bring it all the way forward. And that has because I always went, that's too big of a goal to do everything, to get all of them. And then I got done with the whole thing and I went, that's not too bad. That's actually achievable. That's what I'm going to start working on next. And then when I get done with that, which if I do, which some of them are, I'll get as close as I can. Some of them are event only, which, as it turns out, this actual weekend I had the chance to get one through a code because there's an event going on, and so they've re-released people. So I have to keep an eye out for that kind of stuff. But there is a new generation coming out in November, which I'm very excited about. Even the last one that came out, I held off on, even though it looked awesome and I was really excited about it when it launched, and Bonnie got it and played it, and I watched a little bit of that and I went, oh yeah, I'm all in on that. I'm ready to do that. I was several games behind at that point. I didn't want to jump ahead because I knew if I did, I wouldn't go back. So I waited to play Arceus when it came out. That was amazing. I hope everything is like that going forward. It really felt like they didn't have a 20-year backlog of Pokemon games where they're like, we have to make them all the same. That's what made us money, so we have to do the same thing. It was like they made a modern game without having to worry about that. If Pokemon had just come out today, open world, the way it should, it just felt good. Really good game. Highly recommend it to anyone who's ever played an old Pokemon game. It really reinvented it for me, and I was very excited. I really hope the next one is very similar to it. And that's one I'll be playing a lot of because, unfortunately, specifically in order to get the name of the game, Arceus, is a Pokemon in there, and the only way to get it is to complete the Pokedex in that game. So I'm going to be playing a lot of that because I imagine that will take me a while to do the entire thing in just one game, as opposed to where I have access to 8 or 9 different games that I can, if I need to do it. And as more modern ones have come out, they've given you more access to older, Pokemon that you could have gotten. I do wonder if they'll remake some of the, I'm sure they will at some point because they just did the 4th gen. If they'll do the 5th gen, if they announce it soon enough, I may be able to do that instead of having to go back through because it's a little bit of a hassle to go back to those older games and then transfer everything up. Anyway, that's what I've been doing. I completed that. That was a huge goal to do. Elder Scrolls Online, I completed that, and now I'm playing because, well, that's a problem. Hopefully that didn't cut off. I'm not exactly sure when. I wasn't watching it 100%, but yes, I am recording in some way. That symbol I saw a little bit ago is the warning that the camera is getting too hot, which is a problem for longer recordings like I do when I sit and just talk. It's unfortunate, but I got to rethink this whole camera setup as it is. I've had some trouble with it. Hopefully that's getting everything. Anyway, the other thing I was just going to mention, I'm playing different games. Something that I'm currently playing that I just started. I started Horizon Zero Dawn years ago for the PS4. It's an older one at this point now. I think it's 6 years old, maybe. Maybe it came out in 2016. I looked it up, and I don't exactly remember. Anyway, I started it, and it was really good, and I don't remember why I dropped off on it, but I only played like 10 hours of it, and I'm sure the storyline is 60 or more, 40, I don't know. Something like that. We'll find out as I play it. I just started that over because the second one is out, and we did actually manage to score a PS5 through there. It took us a couple of attempts, but through Sony's release, sign up and we'll tell you, and you show up and you buy it. It took a couple tries there to actually get through, but we did manage to secure one. And Bonnie's played through the second Horizon game and really enjoyed it, and so I saw a little bit of that, and I'm excited because I knew that was a good game as well. So that's my current next one to focus on. I think when I'm in the mood for a good storytelling game, I'll do that and take a break from Elder Scrolls and then come back to it. I'm sure new content will be out as they do. Anyway, trying to think over anything else that I really kind of process to talk about. If I had anything else, there hasn't been too much going on. Yeah, I just need to start getting out more. I think I need to explore more places. I need to look for more stuff. I need to figure out my camera situation here because the things I want to do with it are frustrating me. With some of the issues that I have, I want to be able to keep a shotgun mic on there so that when I go out and record, I can do that. But in order to record that, I have to record through my external recorder, which means I have to remember to press the record button, which I forgot to do when I did the hummingbird video the other day, which means that the only audio, I run it out of the recorder into the camera, but it mixes all the channels into one. Whereas the last one that I had where I was able to do it, I was able to keep the channels separate. So I could have my shotgun mic for one channel and then my lav mic for another channel. And then I would use both and switch between them depending on what sounded better at the time when I'm editing. If something loud goes by, a car is driving or something like that, I can switch to a different microphone and still have audio as I'm going. And I can't do that unless I record the audio separately and then I mix it in later, and that's got the multiple tracks, which means that has to be on there, which adds weight, which is causing a problem with the gimbal. And it's also causing a problem with audio interference between my wireless system, which I didn't realize, but it's okay. I took a sock and I put a sock around the recorder where I discovered the antenna is. For whatever reason, it's interfering, even though it's not wireless at all. I don't fully understand it. I'm not that technical. Unfortunately, I'd like to, but I figured out where it was, and I had the thought of a tinfoil hat, so I just took aluminum foil and folded it up a couple times to make a few layers of it and put it between it. Like I've got a sock around the recorder with aluminum foil, keeping a buffer between that and the wireless audio device below it. But none of this is going to work if it's all too heavy to go on my suction cup mount. This is just a tripod sitting in my seat, which means I cannot drive. As before, I would be able to drive and talk, which is more of what I have the trade-off there of the car audio, but I'd like to be able to do that because then I can be going from place to place. I do not have to stop everything. But I can't drive with just a tripod sitting here. But the camera will fall, it will break, something will happen, and I can't have that. And that's not going to work. So the suction cup mount isn't working with it as heavy as it is. And then the gimbal's not going to work, as I experienced earlier, because it's too heavy. I guess it's too top heavy. I don't know. I couldn't get it to balance directly. I need to go home and play with it more because I've only used the gimbal for the much heavier camera, and it balanced that, so that's weird. but I'd also put a huge lens on it, and I had to adjust it and get a counterweight and do a lot of tinkering with it in order to make that work. So it's not like it was perfect from the get-go, and it still struggled. There was a lot of times where it went, nope, too heavy, stop that, you're doing it wrong. I know, I'm kind of pushing it. Anyway, that's been what's going on right now. I imagine we have some more time before the snow starts falling, so I do want to get out and see some wildlife. I want to try to find a few spots. So far, the spots I've been to have not been encouraging enough to want to come back to. Here on the lake, it was very pretty. It's a very pretty lake, but not too much wildlife. A lot of people fishing. Not so much with what I'm here to see. So I don't know. I'm glad I got to see the hummingbirds. That was something really cool. And I'll do some more research to try to find some locations that I can come to. There's plenty of places, I'm sure. Besides that national park that I do not want to come to. But yes, at least I managed to make it out today and do a little something. Hopefully got enough to clip together into something. It was kind of like I did before, and I really liked how that came out. The first time I went out, it wasn't the best location, I suppose, looking. It's hard to judge in something like that. The water level wasn't, it is what it is. I thought it was still cool looking, and I kind of liked how the video came together, and it encouraged me to go, oh, I do like doing this. This is just another thing, like, I don't want to pin myself into, here's what I'm doing. I'm just wildlife. I have a camera. Why can't I use it for whatever I want? So that's exactly what I'm doing, and that was one of the things where I went, this came out really cool, was just almost like a collection of landscape photographs, but they were just short clips of videos. And the way it edited together, I was just like, yeah, it shows the landscape, I think. I did a good enough job there showing everything, and I was pleased with it. So I want to do that again. I made a separate playlist. That made me remember that I have done it before, and I did it right before I left Wyoming, where I went out to do landscape photography, and then while I was out, I took the I took the vlogging camera and I just used it to shoot video while I was out. So I kind of got a little bit more. It was a bit more in depth. I want to do that a bit more. And there's one specific piece of equipment that I really want to get that I think would be cool to do that, which is a track. So you can get moving shots. So I could put the camera on it and do that. And that's the panning back without having to mess with the lens too much, because that doesn't always, really, you do both if you can get one with a motor, but they're more expensive. And I have zero budget now. I have spent my money on all the camera stuff that I have here. I've spent the money on a few things personally in order to get, set up in the new place. Like I bought a rice cooker because I'm eating a lot more rice and beans for, there's the symbol for the overheating, so I got to wrap it up quick. Rice cooker, I eat a lot of rice and beans now because it's cheap and that's part of the diet. I can stick to it a lot easier, so I got something like that, and then I'm going to start making my own bread instead of buying bread, because everything's expensive, and if I can make myself last longer, that's, people call it frugal or thrifty, but I also want to learn. I enjoy baking, and I'm not great at it. My attempts have been hit and miss, and I've tried it twice here, and both have been utter failures. And then I looked up, I knew about elevation. I didn't know just how much, so I've got a very specific recipe which required me to buy a scale. So that was something that I spent money on. But anyway, then a go bag and things like that. I have no money left, but I would love to get a track in order to put the camera on, in order to have some moving shots of landscape and things like that. I think that would be really cool. Maybe not motorized, maybe just for now. I think I looked it up. It's like $100 to get one. So I'd like to do that for landscape things. I also would really like to use the gimbal because I own a gimbal and I should be able to, that also kind of does it. It's just that it's more stable. It's almost like a tripod that moves, basically, if I get a track. I just have to find one that's stable enough to hold everything to do that without, if I can, without getting two tripods, which is what I've seen, is you kind of need one for both ends of the track. But anyway, point being, I have future goals of what I want to do. I like showing the landscape. I kind of doubt, given how we're on to, we never moved out of COVID. Like, we've just got new variants. Hopefully vaccines will be out soon, everything going on. But I highly doubt, given that, and then the financial strain of what it is, I highly doubt anyone that I personally know, any of my family, is going to come visit. It's just not going to happen. So showing it, and anyone who wants to watch on the internet, obviously, the locations are here, are beautiful, Okay, no, 2 in a row. Frustrated. Internal temperature of the camera just too high. don't know what I'm going to do about that. I don't have a good solution. Maybe I can water cool the camera. I think I saw a video about that once. I'm just kidding. That sounds like a lot of work and not something I'm very... That sounds like a lot of warranty voiding and setting up for something like that. I don't know if that would work. And putting a fan on it sure would kill the audio. So I don't know. I just have to do it in smaller chunks, I guess, is my best option. I've already gone in and told it to let it get as hot as it possibly can, because it before would shut off after like 2 minutes, and that's not nearly long enough. So anyway, continuing here on my phone, just because I wanted to do that, I was talking about it's already gone. It's just straight from one to the other, and it's gone. Anyway, I'm going home. I have done enough today. The weather is about to turn. We're about to get some heavy rain. I've already looked up the forecast, so I know it's coming, and I gotta go. Good time, good stuff. Landscape photos, landscape video, I mean. That's what I mostly did today, and I plan to do more of that in the future because I enjoy it. Mixing that in with the wildlife so that you can kind of get an idea of everything. Realistically, that would be how you would shoot, like, you know, a documentary. You need those B-roll shots of... I don't even know if that technically counts as B-roll, because it's so necessary to tell that you can't just have wildlife in a documentary. It doesn't work very well. You have to kind of show the landscape in order to show, you know, the environment that the wildlife lives in. So the point was that people aren't going to come visit. That's what I was talking about. I was talking about how no one will... I don't expect to have any visitors. Not that we could put anyone up. There's literally no room in that condo. Not at all. And like, it's just not... It's not going to happen, but I'd love to show this because Colorado is beautiful, and I highly doubt any of my family has the money to come out here on a vacation. It's expensive. I certainly wouldn't be able to afford it, but as nice as it is, it would be nice to show it. And showing it to family members, showing it to anyone on the internet who wants to see, documenting this part of my life while we live in Colorado and being able to see stuff. Wildlife. A moose has been spotted by my significant other on a drive to work. So there are moose in the area, which is awesome. And that's like, if I only do one thing over the next year, like if winter hits and it goes, well, I really can't do too much. I do plan on getting some actual snow equipment so that I can, you know, like boots and whatnot. The shoes and the things that you strap on so you can do that. I don't plan on skiing, but anyway, that, depending on how it hits, I certainly don't plan on just staying inside for the whole winter, because that would be a huge waste. I plan on being able to do whatever I can during the time that I can. Maybe that'll cool my... That's how we do it. That's how we'll cool the camera. We just have to wait until it's below 0. There we go. Problem solved. Anyway, moose. If I had to just pick one target for the next year, getting moose on video is the number one. And I've definitely seen pictures of moose in the area, and I have now heard that they are here. They are out here in the summer in the mountains, in the forests, I guess. I don't know, but I'm going to see one day. That's for sure. Anyway, that's all I got for today. I think that kind of covered everything that was going on, has been going on, and will be going on in the future. So until next time. I'd like to say I fixed my audio solution, but I'm not entirely sure if that's true. I'm certainly trying a few different things. This is what I do on my days off. Play with equipment and hope that it's all working. While I listen to the Hades soundtrack, get ready to play Horizon on the PlayStation, and am baking some bread.